Hey guys, how we doing? Thanks for joining me for another round of stories right here on Thailand Bound. I've got 4 stories for you today. They're all brand new to my channel. They haven't been read out before. And just a quick reminder, if you've got a story and you'd like to hear it read out here, send it in. I'll make it anonymous. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a story about Thailand. It can be from anywhere in the world as long as it's quirky and interesting and doesn't read like an itinerary. Okay? All right, let's jump into our first of 4 stories today.
สวัสดีค่ะ
Long story short, I have been a viewer of your channel for many years, and while I have never been to Thailand, yet I have learned a lot through your channel. For example, the bar girl scams, sick buffalo stories, and how some expats go back to their home countries and send money to their girlfriend back in Thailand while she is still taking on customers. I have learned a lot from your channel. I was born in Hong Kong but moved to Canada at a young age and have a Canadian passport. By all accounts, I am Canadian first, Hong Kong second. I grew up in Hong Kong during British rule and my parents decided to leave before China took over again. I'm 43 years old and this story, as I'm writing to you now, is happening in real time, which is why I was hoping to get your advice. I do not mind sharing this with your viewers as a story in case other guys are offered the same thing. To try to keep it short, I have attached 2 of Pam's photos at the bottom. I have been working in Hong Kong since graduation in 2008 and I am turning 43 this year. I've always heard good things about Thai women from your channel, yet never had the chance to meet one in Hong Kong until one day on Tinder I came across Pam's photo and we somehow matched. Her Tinder profile said she was 37, but in reality she was born in 1973, so 53 years old. 10 years my senior. Please don't judge me, but I have always had a thing for older women, no matter the nationality, whether Filipina, Indonesian or Chinese. Most of my ex-girlfriends were older than me. We chatted on Tinder and things went well, so we moved to WhatsApp. I asked her what she was looking for and she said good aerobics, so I thought nice, I hit the jackpot because 99% of women on Tinder will not say that. I have attached some of our chat history below so you know I am not making this up. We met up and she did look older than I expected, but I was fine with that as I am still fairly young and curious whether a Thai woman was good at aerobics, as you often say on your channel, and she was. We were compatible, but I went in only wanting aerobics. As time went on, she kept sending me messages calling me my love and darling. So I had to tell her I wanted to break it off because I did not want to lie and I did not want a relationship. When we first met, I asked, what were you looking for? And she said, good aerobics. So that is why we hooked up. After that, she was disappointing and we stopped talking. A few months later, this first happened in December 2025 and we reconnected in February. She proposed that we wanted to marry and she would pay me 1 million baht for my troubles. I'm not rich and I'm not poor either. The 1 million baht, about 250,000 Hong Kong dollars, is around 9 months of my salary, which is about 31,000 Hong Kong dollars per month or 124,000 baht per month. It will not make me rich, but it is not small money. Recently, my boss told us the company is not doing well and worst case, he may shut it down in 2029. I would not consider her offer, but the possibility of losing my stable income in 3 years, 1 million baht suddenly sounds appealing. I have spoken to close friends because a transactional marriage is illegal in Hong Kong and Thailand, so we would have to be discreet. Some friends said, do it, but take cash only. Most say it is not worth the trouble because she could take out loans in Hong Kong, and as a husband, I would have to legally obliged to pay these. If she has debts in Thailand, I may also have problems. The deal is we register the marriage in Thailand first, then she pays me the 1 million baht, then I return to Hong Kong and sponsor her as my wife. I'm writing because my friends are concerned. I'm being scammed or could even get kidnapped if I go to Thailand. I have spent time with Pam and she seems authentic, not that type of a person. But my friend said fake marriages for residency in Hong Kong are usually worth about 100,000 Hong Kong dollars. So it is suspicious someone would pay much more than the market price. Have you heard of scams like this in Thailand? I do not know who to turn to, and I admit money is the key motivating factor. Pam has a son and daughter, and her husband is either deceased or she is divorced. Otherwise, she would not ask to register a marriage in Thailand. She even sent videos of her 22-year-old daughter. She invited me to visit her in Thailand to discuss the proposal, but I offered to meet her in Tokyo in May 2026 instead. Any advice is appreciated, and I want the money, but I am worried about legal or other problems if I marry her for money. My gut says she will not harm me, but as a long-time viewer, I'm not sure I can fully trust any Thai woman, bar girl or not. Pam says she runs a legitimate massage business in Bangkok with no aerobics involved, yet when she was in Hong Kong, she worked for 100 Hong Kong dollars per massage, which is very low. So how can she afford to pay 1 million baht? My friend says this sounds too good to be true. What is your advice, Peter? Well, straight off the back, I'm going to say I'm not going to offer any advice. And the reason being is because you always get somebody who spoils it for everybody else. And I once had a guy about 18 months ago send me in a similar story, personal, not to be read out. And he asked for my advice about this girl here in Thailand. And I basically told him what I thought. I told him the truth, that he was being played and his best option would be to drop her and look for somebody else. And, I went into details. So what the guy did, I didn't expect him to do. He actually sent the email on to the Thai girl. She got hold of my details. She was raging, sending me emails threatening to have me deported and, really gave me a hard time online. In the end, it died down and it went away, but I'm just not willing to risk that happening to me again. I live in Thailand full time and I'm not going to be having Thai women or their husbands chasing me or threatening me. So what I'd suggest is I'll leave this one for the viewers. Anybody who listens to this story, they can give their opinions. You can go through the comments and then you can take your advice. I'm sure there'll be a mixed bag. Okay, right. Okay. On to story number 2. I met Nock in April 2023, the first week of April to be exact. I had just landed in Bangkok for work. I am a professional skateboarder based in the US, and at the time I was around 30. Nock was about 10 years younger than me, a college student from somewhere in the Thai countryside. I have honestly forgotten the name of the town she told me she was from. I just remember it sounded quiet and far removed from the chaos of Bangkok. Being a skateboarder at 30 is a strange place to be. Most guys my age either retire early or move to the business side of things. But I was still out there, still filming, still traveling, still in the mix. Because skateboarding is a youth-driven industry, most of the people around me, friends, girls and collaborators, tend to be younger. It is just the environment. About a week before my flight to Thailand, I connected with Nock on Instagram and we moved to direct messages quickly. I remember checking her profile and noticing she had more followers than I did. And I'm not exactly unknown in the skate world back home. That caught my attention. We messaged constantly leading up to my trip, FaceTime for a few days and vetted each other. She was beautiful, soft features, expensive eyes, the kind of natural beauty that does not need much effort. She seemed sweet, a little shy but curious about me. We made plans to meet for the day I arrived in Bangkok. That first night she took too long to reply and jet lag plus impatience got the better of me, so my manager and I hit a music bar in the city instead. The next day she said she was free Saturday. I suggested meeting around 2 p.m. at a cafe. She did not respond until 6 p.m. and apologised, saying she was hungover and that it was too hot to go out during the day. She was not exaggerating. Bangkok in early April is brutal. She suggested we go to a club called Sugar that night. She had been there the night before and had a good time. I jokingly asked if she worked there, just to make sure I was not being lured in as a customer. She laughed and said no. Apparently, while drunk the night before, she had agreed to reserve a table for the next evening and had already paid for it. We compromised and agreed to meet at the Commons, a modern food and community space in Tonglaw, then head to Sugar afterwards. Bangkok traffic, as always, had other plans. I was stuck in a taxi watching motorbikes weave between cars while messaging her the entire time. She kept telling me she was nervous and she said she did not feel beautiful that day. She mentioned that I had once told her my ex was Japanese and had straight hair and that her hair was a little curly that afternoon. She worried it would not compare. I told her not to worry. When Knock finally arrived and messaged that I was there, she jokingly texted that she was going home because she was too shy to meet me. Mid-reply, I spotted her. She was standing near the entrance pretending to scroll on her phone. I walked up and complimented her immediately, and her nervousness melted into laughter. We ate, walked and talked. The Commons had that trendy Bangkok vibe. Open-air layout, warm lighting, a mix of students, expats and well-dressed locals escaping the heat. It felt relaxed and easy. Honestly, I did not want to go to a club. I told her I hated clubs and asked if she would rather grab a drink and enjoy the view from my hotel instead. Bangkok's skyline at night, all glass towers and scattered lights, has a way of making everything feel cinematic. She agreed. The chemistry that night was undeniable. Conversation flowed effortlessly and the tension built naturally. The aerobics confirmed it. We clicked in every way that mattered. The next morning, she realised she had left her ID at my hotel. I left it with the front desk because I had a film shoot. Even while filming, I found myself thinking about her. I asked her to come over again the following day for movies, dinner and relaxing. She said yes. A couple of days after we first met, around April the 10th, she came by and at some point I randomly decided I wanted to go shopping. She took me to Terminal 21. I grabbed a few shirts to try on and I waited outside the fitting rooms. That is when I noticed another woman in a green dress browsing nearby. Late 30s or early 40s, straight brown hair, confident posture, the kind of mature beauty that turns heads without trying. She had that teacher you would have had a crush on in high school. I knew it was risky because my date was 10 feet away behind a curtain, but I was in Thailand for work and fun. I grabbed 2 random shirts and held them up against my chest. When she circled back, I asked which one looked better on me. Her English was solid and she complimented my braided locks, which I tied up in a bun that day. Her name was Jenny. She told me she was on a break from work at a hotel bar down the street from the mall. A luxury hotel, though I did not catch the name. Meanwhile, Nock was sending me mirror selfies from inside the fitting room. Every new photo felt like a countdown. I knew I had to wrap it up soon. Jenny invited me to have a drink at her work in about an hour. She was so beautiful I could not turn her down, but I was already on a date and did not know how I would pull it off. I exchanged line contacts with Jenny just before Nock stepped out, and then we went our separate ways. Nock and I had finished shopping and I bought one of the shirts for her because it looked good on her. I remember being a broke college student myself, so I did not mind paying. Up until that point, I had only paid for dinner. That is when I came up with what I thought was a genius plan. I told Nock I needed to make an important phone call in private and asked if she would wait at the mall while I ran back to my hotel for about 30 minutes. She agreed. I rushed to Jenny's hotel and it was even nicer than mine. Polished marble floors, quiet lobby, the kind of place where everything smells expensive. The bar was nearly empty, just her and me. She poured me a whiskey on the rocks and we talked. She told me she was divorced and had a 20-year-old son with a Thai man. There was something calm and self-assuring about her. No games and no nerves. I mentioned I would be travelling to Japan soon for work. She said she had been before and was planning to go again. We floated the idea of meeting there someday. As we talked, the ice in my glass melted slowly and a couple of older Australian guys walked in, demanding her attention. I took that as my cue. I told her it was nice meeting her and that we would continue our conversation online. I ran back to the mall to meet Nock and the rest of the evening went off without a hitch. We relaxed at my hotel, watched horror movies, had dinner at a nice Italian restaurant and spent the night together. At dinner, Nock asked who the woman was that I had been talking to outside the fitting rooms. I had not realised she saw. I told her the woman complimented my hairstyle and left it at that. She did not press further and I did not volunteer more. My trip ended the next day and I later realised I was leaving right before Songkran. From what Nock described, the city turns into a giant water fight, wild timing to miss it. I did see Nock again later that year when I returned to Thailand, but that is another story. I also have a wild story about the older women, Jenny, if your viewers are interested. As always, thank you for staying entertaining and consistent with your YouTube channel since I found you in 2021. I have been meaning to send another story for a while, but it has been very busy and writing is not my strong suit. I'm happy to support the channel however I can. Thanks, Peter. Well, of course, if you have any other stories, especially about that lady Jenny you met in Terminal 21, I'd love to receive it and read it out for everybody else. And I don't know, you probably know this, but you don't necessarily have to type out your story in Word on a keyboard. Word now has the facility where you can dictate it. You can actually just read it from mind, not speak loudly, and Word will actually automatically put that into a document. You might have to read it and just correct it a little bit, but it is a lot easier than typing it out. Right, okay, into story number 3. They say you shouldn't bring your wife or girlfriend to Pattaya. Well, I did, and here's how that went. Some background leading up to this will be helpful. My wife and I are both 50-year-olds and have been married for over 20 years. She's going through menopause and it's been really difficult on both of us. For about the last 2 years, I've been dealing with a wife that's mean, aloof, verbally abusive, and the aerobics were almost non-existent. Maybe I could have coped with the lack of aerobics, but her hot temper was something I could no longer live with. I tried to address these issues several times, but always got shut down. I ended up filing for divorce in December. The last 2 years, I've been dreaming of Pattaya. I've never been there before, but I was obsessed. I've watched all of the YouTube videos, seen the Facebook postings, browsed the real estate websites, and saved some favourites on Thai Friendly. I had it all figured out, down to the condo building I liked. The divorce filing blindsided and devastated my wife. She really wanted to work it out. She asked me what my grievances were and what she could do to improve. I told her a few simple things. She needed to be more nice and less mean, more aerobics, be nice to our pets. At first, she gave me a lot of deflect and redirect arguments about how her mistreatment was actually my fault, but I no longer cared about the outcome and I stood firm. This broke her resolve. It was important to file it in December before we left for our vacation to the Philippines so that she could be served papers while in the US. She is a Filipino. We had a lot of different conversations over those few weeks. Somewhere along the way, it came out that I was planning a trip to Thailand from Cebu. I told her I was thinking about living there. I could get a condo, a scooter, play golf, and have aerobics anytime I wanted. No fuss. This really got her going. I was so unconcerned about the outcome, I requested a certain aerobics act that is pretty common. We could call it a big wet kiss. She said, "You know I won't do that." I told her we could bar fine a girl in Thailand and she could have a one-on-one tutorial. I didn't actually know that a microaggression was until I spotted it that moment. She insisted that she would go to Thailand with me. She insisted that she could see Pattaya and keep an open mind. She did not agree to give me a full pass like I'd requested. We left for the Philippines New Year's Day. We spent about 2 weeks there. We went to her hometown, we saw her parents, we took the nieces and nephews to the beach. Our adult daughter and her boyfriend went home on January the 15th and the 16th. We flew to Thailand. I arrived first at the old Don Mueang airport. I had arranged an SUV with a driver and we had to wait a while and pick up my wife in Bangkok. I was trying to find a Nuru massage, but nothing was open at that hour of the morning. We picked her up late because Cebu Pacific is almost always late and head to our condo. I'd chosen a nice condo in Jomtien. I found it on Airbnb and the condo was on the short list of places I could live. We had a beautiful ocean-facing unit on the 28th floor and I loved it. I had also arranged to rent a scooter, a Honda ADV 160. We went to pick that up right away. The first night we went to Walking Street. She was interested in the spectacle. I was interested in the scenery. I knew exactly where I wanted to go. A great go-go club I had seen videos of online. I went in first. Once inside, I was given a seat near the stage. There were 2 sets of women. There were regular girls dressed in black and red, and there were girls that were much more attractive dressed in white bikinis. Talking to the mama-san, I was told the regular girls would go home with you, but the white bikini girls would not. Apparently the bait and switch are always in play. A girl asked me for a ladies' drink. Then, not even a minute later, she said she had to go and dance. Okay, you didn't know a minute ago that you'd be dancing very soon. My wife finally got into the go-go, looked around and soon left. The doorman and Mama-san made her uncomfortable. The white bikini girls got on stage and took off their tops. I motioned for one to join me. I was told it was 3 lady drinks for her to sit with me. I said no thanks and started to settle my bill. The mama-san asked me why I was leaving, and I told her it was because she made my wife uncomfortable. She said, no, it's you who made your wife uncomfortable. Whatever, lady. I made my way to the next spot I wanted to see, Windmill. Actually, I ended up at Windmill 2. I was in there for about 15 minutes when my messenger ringer started going wild. I knew what it was. My wife, wisely, wasn't leaving me unattached. I went outside and I took her call. I told her I couldn't take her call while I was inside the bar. The music was just far too loud. I told her that the first rule of the go-go bar is you leave your phone in your pocket anyway. If you take out your phone, they'll probably throw you out on your face after they break your phone. The bouncers heard this and laughed. We ended up on Soy Bacau at the Matador Rock and Roll Bar and watched the live band for the rest of the night. The next day, we took the scooter to the Sanctuary of Truth. We stayed with the tour group long enough to get inside and ditched them so we could explore. I loved riding the scooter around Pattaya. I was a little apprehensive at first, taking it pretty easy. I quickly discovered that the traffic is a bit more complicated than the US, but drivers are attentive and usually respectful. It's significantly better than the traffic in Cebu. That night, I wanted to go to Soy 6. I really wanted to see what the girls' natural reaction to me would be. I knew if my wife was walking with me, I'd be left alone. I told my wife to wait a bit while I went for a walk. I unbuttoned my shirt to reveal a shirt I had on underneath that had free hugs in large letters. This went off like a fart in a church, so I quickly buttoned my shirt back up. I didn't get that much attention from the ladies. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe because I'm 50, I'm short, a few pounds overweight. I bought a drink for one girl in a kimono. I thought she was cute at first, but she ended up being heavier than my taste. She told me 1,500 baht to go upstairs. I went to another place, had a drink with a lady who told me 3,000 baht. At this point, about an hour had gone by. My wife was calling me. We still hadn't eaten yet. I said, okay, let's go down Soy 6 and find something. You're as hot as these girls. Let's go. So we walked down the street and ended up at the Queen Victoria Inn. The waitress told us in broken English that the kitchen would close in 15 minutes. My wife couldn't understand, so I said, she's trying to say the kitchen closes in 15 minutes, so you need to hurry up and make a decision if you want to eat. The Queen Victoria has a huge menu, so this wasn't easy for her. We ate and hit the street again. I've got a type. I would call it fresh off the bus. It means no boob implants or minimal tattoos, slim build, no visible evidence of prior pregnancies. I decided if I was going to find this young lady, I would have to approach first. I figured the way to do this is to kind of step back and observe for a minute. Then walk up to my desired lady, gently take her hand and hold it while talking to her, introduce myself and ask her if she'd like to have a drink with me. I found the girl I was looking for, and it worked really well. She worked at Tomcats, so that's where we went. My wife met up with me about 10 minutes later. It was kind of awkward at first for the girl. She wasn't sure if there was going to be some kind of a scene. She was kind of talking to my wife a lot and ignoring me, laugh out loud. One of the bar girl's friends joined us. We ordered drinks, then more drinks. I was telling my wife to go and pull the handrail from a chain suspended from the ceiling and see what happened. She didn't want to at first, but said she'd do it on the way back from the bathroom. She ended up pulling the chain, and of course a siren sounded, and the girls all went crazy. We did those drinks, we did big wet kiss shots, I got a t-shirt, we took a bunch of pictures with the girls. It was a great night. We got back to the hotel and my wife was really revved up and ready for aerobics. She was just about trying to rip my shirt off in the elevator. The next day, we played golf. I'm just an amateur golfer and my wife is very much a beginner. She's doing well to hit the ball 100 yards every third try. My wife's caddy was pretty tense until she figured out we were not going to take this game very seriously. No keeping score, drop balls on the fairway and give ourselves a good shot. Don't look for lost balls very long, keep the game moving. We even skipped a hole or three. That night we went to the Hilton rooftop. I spotted a couple of open tables but was told they were all reserved. By this time, I'm learning how to navigate. Be really nice and calm, dress presentably, shower and change your clothes before going out for the evening so you smell good. Tip generously. I told the waiter that we just wanted to have a couple of drinks, an appetizer or two, and take some pictures, and that would probably be done in an hour. Suddenly, the reserved table opened up. Apparently, that couple was getting there at 10 p.m. We had our cocktails and appetizer and took a bunch of pictures. Then we ended up back at Walking Street. My wife said she wanted to go to the Go-Go. I liked Windmill too. I said, okay, if you insist. The doorman gave us a little resistance initially. He said something to her in Thai, and she just looked at him blankly. I said, she's not Thai, she's a Filipino, she speaks English. Once they realised she was Filipino, did not speak Thai, was a tourist, and didn't know any people in Pattaya, we were given the red carpet treatment. We had a few drinks downstairs. We went upstairs and had a few drinks there. Surprisingly, mine wasn't the only wife in the club. There were about 3 wives or girlfriends. I got a lap dance from a young lady. It was kind of awkward until my wife took the girl's hand and put it in my lap, and then she got into it a little. We stayed there for a while and then went to Hot Tuna and watched the band for a few songs. We tried to go to a busy club. We got in and walked up the stairs. It was jam-packed and smoky, so we turned right back around and walked out. We ended up at a Russian club. There were only about 20 people in there, maybe 10 customers, 10 employees. This was the only place I saw a very good pole dancer performance. The Russian clubs have a reputation for being expensive, and they are. We didn't stay very long. While we were riding around on the scooter, my wife could sense my fascination for Pattaya. She said something to the effect of, "It seems as if you like this place too much." I had to be honest with her. I like it much better than Cebu. In Cebu, getting around is extremely difficult. The traffic moves at walking pace, but you can't walk either because the sidewalks are terrible or non-existent. It's so hard to get around. We ended up in a pretty small area centered around Ayala Mall. Also, if you get about a quarter of a mile from the mall itself in any direction, you're in a pretty rough neighborhood. My thoughts on Pattaya as a first-timer visitor, I can see how it's changing and how old-timers may lament about good old days that are gone. The good old days are gone everywhere, including our home countries. Some businesses are very busy and others don't have a single customer. Many of the girls are fairly average looking. The beautiful ones are often bait, the average ones then switch. I suspect the most attractive are making money online or operating more discreetly, being sugar babies or doing high-end work. The demographics of visitors are evolving and the white European people aren't always the target customer anymore. Costs have risen everywhere, including Pattaya. They pay the same prices for commodities like gasoline and Toyotas, and everyone has social media, so they know what wealth is, what things cost, and what life is like in the West. Pattaya is a pretty small place, land area-wise. It is the same as an American suburb with much higher population density. There are many people who are well connected. A lot of people there have a ton of time for gossip. For me as a visitor, Thai people mostly look slimmer and the men aren't noticeable at all. However, to them, I'm easy to identify. At times, Pattaya feels like a place where anything goes. There are things you can do in Pattaya you could never do at home without ending up on a registry. However, you will very quickly develop a reputation there. Are you a big spender or are you a cheap Charlie? Are you the kind and easygoing or hot-tempered? Can you sip a few drinks and have a good time, or are you a sloppy drunk? You'd be well advised to mind your manners a bit. Treat people with respect at all times. If you're quoted an outrageous price for something, just move on. I loved Pattaya. My wife had a good time too. The divorce filing whacked her on the head. We had some difficult conversations and have been working through our issues. We don't have the big problems like infidelity, addictions, money problems, etc. Just the day-to-day grind wearing us down. She's been a lot nicer and more affectionate. At first, I suspected I was being manipulated. Maybe she's waiting for the kill. I really do want our marriage to work out. We have a long history together. I'm proud of the fact that our daughter grew up in a 2-parent home, even though she's 20 years old now and excelling in college. I still think about how my decisions could impact her. However, If things don't work out with Mama, I'll be on a flight to Thailand the next day. It's quite an interesting story there. So just rewinding a little bit, going back to the Hilton Hotel, which is on the seafront at Pattaya, I had a similar situation. Around 6, 7 o'clock, even a little bit earlier, it was very, very popular, the rooftop bar there, because obviously you have a fantastic view of the skyline, the beach at Pattaya, and it gets very, very busy. And I remember I'd never been up there. I've been going to Pattaya for years, and a couple of years ago, while living here this time around, I was in Pattaya with my girlfriend, and I wanted to show her Pattaya from the rooftop of the Hilton. And as I say, I'd never been there, so I thought, great, we'll go up there. We got up there about 6, and there was only about 2 tables with nobody sitting on them, and they weren't even right near the front. They were towards the back. And I went to sit on one, and the girl told me, look, they're reserved. And I said, well, what time is the reservation? And she said 7:30. And I said, well, look, I'm going to have 2 beers, and my girlfriend will have a cocktail. We'll take some photographs. We'll be gone in 45 minutes. And the same thing happened. They removed the reserved sign. And of course, I gave her a 100 baht tip. So it is possible, if you find a reserved table, you can sometimes get in there for a shorter time, not a full meal, Right, I'm going to read our final story, our 4th and final story today. And this is probably one of the shortest stories I've read out on the channel. Philippines, 1988. I sit with my buddies, a Swiss, an American, and 2 fellow Germans, at a swimming pool in Cebu City. We played Risk, the board game, about twice a week. Henry, who rented motorcycles, was the veteran with 12 years under his belt. Chris, the Swiss, had been living in the Philippines for 4 years, and I had arrived 2 years earlier. At the time, it was not so common to leave your country for long periods. There was no internet and therefore no remote work. Some people had rental properties or other residual income, while others had only savings and were forced to return home once that money ran out. About once a week, a tourist would show up at the pool. They usually had only 2 or 3 days on the island before moving on to another, trying to squeeze as much adventure as possible into their limited freedom from the grind. They always seemed rushed and stressed, desperate not to miss anything. They often approached us and wondered how we could have so much time to sit around playing what they called a stupid board game. When they heard how long we had already been there and that we had no plans to leave, their mouths would literally drop open. Their bucket list, carefully planned from Lonely Planet guys, suddenly seemed very different from our reality. It amused us every single time. Mostly, it was just guys in our meeting fell on a Saturday. Sometimes our wives or girlfriends joined us. They would sit at another table chatting happily and occasionally cook some food. Between rounds of Risk, we cooled off in the pool. The entrance fee was less than $1 at the time. One day, I noticed a girl of about 20 or 22. She was wearing a one-piece bathing suit and had a towel wrapped around herself. Filipinas tend to be shy, body conscious, and very Catholic, at least when other people are watching. She walked up to the edge of the pool, then it must have occurred to her that jumping in would get the towel wet. So she walked back to the bench where she had left her belongings. Now, she faced a dilemma that if she dropped the towel, she would have to walk the few meters to the pool in just her bathing suit in front of us guys. So she turned around and walked back to the pool again with the towel wrapped tightly around her body. That spectacle repeated itself 4 times. Back to the bench and back to the pool. On the final attempt, she dropped the towel right at the edge of the pool and jumped in. Getting to the towel soaked anyway. I nudged my buddies and we were all memorized by the performance. We debated whether it was modesty, some kind of a performance, or just plain confusion. Yeah, it sounds to me like she was looking for a little bit of attention there. If you're in that kind of business that those young girls are in, 20 plus up, competition can be fierce, and if you can get an angle like capturing the audience of 4 or 5 guys sitting at a pool by that little performance, then you've got a leg up on the game already, haven't you? I might be wrong, that's just my opinion. I'm allowed to have an opinion as well, right? Okay, that's it for this week, guys. Thanks for listening, and as always, if you want me to read your story out, I'll change names, make it anonymous, and you too can have your story read out right here on Thailand Bound. Thanks again.